EC comics were not the only comics that the government did not want you to read as a kid. There were plenty more. And that's what I'm going to show off today in The Horror, The Horror. Stay tuned and watch this video until the end. Hello, and we're back. I am Taylor of Taylor Talks Comics. Thank you for joining me. I am doing 31 days of horror comics and horror comic related videos on my channel throughout the month of October. Please subscribe and hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss out on any of those. I have a playlist also on my channel showing off all the videos for the month so far. So if you missed any, you can go back and watch those. And give the video a thumbs up and comment down below. Those things go a long way in helping my videos in the YouTube algorithm put my videos in front of the eyes of people that don't know my channel exist. So today, we're going over The Horror, The Horror. Comic books the government did not want you to read. This is a great collection of pre-code horror comics that are non-EC that was put out by Abrams Comic Arts. And really, really great book design on this by Jacob Covey. I talk about book design a lot on my channel, and Jacob Covey is one of my favorite book designers ever. He's done a great job. So he did do the book design on this one, and it's this thick volume of just material. Like, this is such a cool collection, a good coffee table book. It does have like a flexi cover, so it's paperback technically, but it's like this thick flexi cover. It comes with some French flaps, some great end papers there. The back, there's no end papers, but it does come with a DVD of important information regarding what we're reading here, which is really cool. And then the afterward. So like I said, this was put out by Abrams Comic Arts. I love all the blown up panels here too, to see this artwork blown up bigger than you'll ever see. It is selected, edited, and commentary by Jim Trombetta. Introduction by R.L. Stine, famous writer of Goosebumps, who has always talked about how he was influenced by these pre-code horror comics and EC comics in general. You see the designer Jacob Covey there. Little introduction, or a little dedication to Trombetta's parents. And then here's a good table of contents for what you're going to be looking at. And it shows kind of all of the different styles of horror that were involved, and a lot of the name placements and things that were named in the Comics Code Authority of things that you could not have and whatnot. A lot of great covers throughout here as well, and really kind of eye-opening to show that that there were so many more publishers out there besides just EC. Like when we talk about the Comics Code Authority and the Senate hearings due to Frederick Wertham's Seduction of the Innocent, we think a lot about EC Comics and how it kind of killed EC Comics and what we knew of it. But there were so many other publishers that had to shut down due to that, like dozens and dozens and dozens of publishers. I love this Atlas cover here, Uncanny Tales. This guy's legs are off, and this monster's running away with his legs. Like, you can see some of the grotesque nature of these horror comics that they said that were ruining kids' minds and making them into juvenile delinquents. All the great title lettering. Like, if you're just want a good art book, you can't go wrong with a book like this. Even like communist propaganda, The Age of Nuclear Terror is what this chapter's about. So you're gonna see some sci-fi nuclear terror involved here. That's one of the. Here's a great comic by Basil Wolverton, who's one of my all-time favorite comic book artists. I love his work. But in the 50s, post-World War II, we saw nuclear horror involved in a lot of these sci-fi stories due to the advent of the atom bomb and whatnot, right? So here's the horror, just straight-up horror comics. Here's Foul Play, which I showed off on my channel too. On the day one of my reading, I showed off Foul Play, the book, the hardcover that collects a lot of Jack Davis's horror comics in here. So this is an EC comic. There is EC representation throughout this book, but most of it's other pre-code horror. And these panels right here, which are scanned from the original comic, were what was described in the Senate hearing. And also there's like interviews with kids talking about how these panels made them throw up and whatnot. And great little annotations of where these pictures are coming from too. Like, this really, really well put together book. You get all the historical context you want in a collection like this. Dungeon of Doom. So you don't get full stories sometimes. Sometimes you do. Like this looks like a full story right here. But like Foul Play, you only got that one page in there. But there's the historical context of why it's included in here and things. Like, it's not just a bunch of pictures put together. Like, Trombetta does a good job. Trombetta, right? I'm not getting the name wrong. Yeah, Trombetta does a great job of, like, just having this collection with all the historical context you want included. With just this story, who's the art on this one? Al Idea. I'm not familiar with his artwork, but he looks pretty great. So that's one thing, too, is, like, I know a lot about EC Comics, but some of these other publishers and stuff that have never been collected maybe or not collected well, I don't know about. And I love the preservation of history and comics, and we need these to be collected. If you know any good collections of pre-code horror, let me know. Like, I know Craig Yo does a lot of them, and I know PS Art Books does a lot of them, but I want to know what the good stuff is. Like, what else I should be seeking out. Drop those comments down below. Here's Crime Does Not Pay, which is one of the earliest crime comics. And George Tuscan artwork there. Crime and Punishment. It's one great cover. So some of the covers you get a full page of it. Sometimes they just do little thumbnails. Here's a story. I don't know who this is by. Maybe you'll tell me at the end here. Oh, this is from Atlas. Oh, previous. The Horse Laugh. Uncanny Tales. Writer unknown, art by Mort Lawrence. This is one of the Atlas comics. Crime suspense stories. Thrilling crime. This is when you start to get like some of that neon, not neon, but like black art, what do you call it? Blacklight artwork on the title lettering there. L.B. Cole is the artist there, and he is known for that, having these like super saturated colors that look like blacklight art. Sorry. There's so much great art in here. But if you're like a comic book artist, you have to be able to, or you want books like this just give you inspiration for different compositions and cover layouts and just different pieces in general. Or if you're just a fan of comic book history in general. So I stopped on this cover because this has like an eye injury, which is one of the things that the Comics Code Authority was anti-eye injury, so you can't do that. This was done by Bernard Bailey. But that's also the cover image, but they kind of, I think that's a Ditko piece right here, and then they added it to him without the eye injury happening right there. So they kind of melded two pieces together for that cover. Oh, here's the Kefauver hearings, and this is a Johnny Craig piece right here with this hatchet in his head. And this is actually an instance where EC censored themselves on this book. I talk about that in one of my videos. I talked about that, and but they didn't really bring that up in the Senate hearing about how here it is. So that's the original art here, and then here's the cover by Johnny Craig where they edited out the hatchet. So this looks like he's got a glowing light on his head. But that's one instance where William Gaines censored his own comics. And they didn't really bring that up in the Senate hearings, unfortunately, though. It's like, we don't always let whatever happen. This was brought up in the Senate hearing, too, with this guy hatcheting this woman's head off with her legs over here. And William Gaines has a pretty terrible description about how this is not violent, and how it's not distasteful. Tomb of Terror, this is by Howard Nostrand and Sid Check on this story. So it's just a really great collection. It's almost like, feels like a zine, like a really great zine where it's like, you got this historical context, you got some comics, you get some panels blown up, you get some covers blown up. Really, really fun collection of book stuff. If you don't have like the shelf space for a bunch of these horror collections, but you just want like a book or some books on here that represent that, or if you're new to this kind of era of horror comics and you just want a taste for it to see if it's your thing, this is a great book to pick up as well. Like, look at that. Weird mysteries of this brain being pulled out of this zombie skull. Bernard Bailey on art right there, too. Bernard Bailey, I'm not familiar with him too much. I wonder, he did not work for EC, but his artwork is something I want to explore more of. So let me know where I can find some Bernard Bailey. The Brain Bats of Venus. This is a great Basil Wolverton story. I have the hardcover collection that talks about this story and has a lot of his stuff in it, including this, like such a great image and design, character design. It's just such a weird comic book artist. Like Basil Wolverton just drew really great weird art that didn't look like anybody else. Here's a war comics that had some horror involved in it. Like this guy right here, who had a gunshot to the head by Don Heck. Which it looks like that head was pasted up over here too. But also by Don Heck. That's got to be some sort of repurposing of that. Luis Buñuel, Salvador Dali, the Surrealist film classic. An Andalusian dog. So I guess we're going to get into some surreal horror, which is some of my favorite stuff. That's L.B. Cole. You can almost point out L.B. Cole, but just by the oversaturated black light kind of artwork in here. Colorama. Oh, Black Cat Mystery. This is by Bob Powell, who was famous for doing a lot of work in this era and actually showed off Mars Attacks on an earlier video, showing off Bob Powell doing all the Mars Attacks trading card art. So be sure to check out that video if you want to see more Bob Powell or more Mars Attacks. Joe Maneely on this cover. Joe Maneely was a big-time artist for Atlas Comics back in the day, and he tragically passed away at the age of like 32, I think. And right when he passed away, Jack Kirby came back to Marvel right at that time, and then kind of helped usher in the Silver Age of Marvel. And it's always like the big what if Joe Maneely survived and lived on, and how would that have shaped the Silver Age of Marvel? So you get some really great comic stories in here too. Like, it's just such a great book. Like, this is one of my favorite books in my collection just for what it has involved in it. I love that title lettering with some imagery throughout the letters. Kind of reminds me of Mad Magazine a little bit. Oh, that's Steve Ditko on this art piece. Wally Wood doing that eerie cover right there. Don Heck, like, he most famously did like Avengers and like Iron Man issues throughout the Silver Age, but before that he's doing these great war pieces, or horror pieces, which is fun to see if you only know Don Heck from his Marvel work. There's a surreal piece. This woman turns into a freaking snake. Steve Ditko. See, that's the Steve Ditko. Yeah, there's a Steve Ditko piece that was repurposed up on here around this guy's face. Kind of melded together. It's really fun comics, pre-code horror. I mean, you can't go wrong with that, right? If you're into that era of comics. Really, really great stuff. And then in the back, you get a bibliography and an index. Oh, this looks great. Who is this? Tomb of Terror. Oh, it's more Bob Powell stuff. Bob Powell's one of those artists where the more I see of his work, the more I want to explore. But bibliography here of where all this information came from, and then a great index. So if you're looking for just one artist or one comic or whatever, you come back here and find it. Really, really great resource, and I can't recommend this enough. It's only $30 cover price, so if you find it in stores, it's pretty cheap. And it's really, really a thick tome of good pre-code horror. Can't recommend enough. Check out the horror, and please subscribe to my channel. I am on the road to 3,000 subscribers, and I need your help. I want to get to 3,000 by the end of this year. I'm doing 31 days of horror comics, so if you're into horror comics, it's another incentive to subscribe. Hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss a single video. But also, give the video a thumbs up. Comment down below with your thoughts on pre-code horror. And those things kind of help the YouTube algorithm know that YouTube needs to put my videos and my channel in front of the eyeballs of people that don't know this channel exists. Yes, those eyeballs. Thank you guys. Keep talking comics.